So we're going to work on this beach bike here. This is what I show as the example. I've got the blue bike with a light blue basket, but today I am going to paint it with a bright pink bike and the green striped basket. I paint these so many times that it's just fun to do it a different way. So I've mixed up my paints ahead of time from the tropical set, and then I have two of these add-ons. One is a black and one is a pink. You can't mix a bright pink out of here except to maybe use this. Got some paint in here. This sunset color is a nice pink that you could also do instead of this extra one is the bright pink. So whatever you've got in your set of paints at home, you're welcome to use and design your own bike. And I'm going to do this hot pink. So we're going to start with the ocean first, and I have mixed up this color here using a little greens, a little blues, and I am going to follow that horizon line. I'm going to water that down, and that'll be a different kind of blue here. I love the way the ocean looks in the Caribbean with that nice turquoisey blue, so I'm okay with it being a little exaggerated here, so you can make that decision for yourself. I'm kind of starting off with the lines as if there's a nice little ripple of waves coming across, and I can touch those together a little bit just so that it doesn't look like a striped shirt. But you see, I laid down the lines first so that I can make sure to get them straight. It's easier to do that way. And I'm going to come in here, right here at this horizon line where the sand will meet. Kind of get my bearings. This is part of the fence. It's behind a mat if you were to frame it, so that's why it disappears there. And in your take-in paint that you purchased, it also has a little strip so you can test out, and honestly we can just go straight across that. You can test out your colors and practice your strokes to make sure you feel confident before you start your final piece. Okay, so we've got the makings of the ocean here, and once that's dry I'll show you how we can combine that. So then we can work on our sand, and in this palette I mixed up some yellow and brown, so it's not quite the beautiful white sand that I most love, but it's more actual sand color. We enjoy going to Hilton Head, and the sand is a little bit brown but a lot of powdery white, so not trying to do the stripes like the ocean, so but leaving a little bit of white so that it looks like we've got, let's see, that's solid. Between that fence, this is just a watered down version of that. I want to go ahead and do this, and I missed a little bit of my ocean here and here. Okay. Go down here and kind of get that. This will dry and we can go over those lines because it'll be in the same colorway as far as those little grasses. They'll be brown, or if you use green you may want to just make sure to go around them so that you don't end up with a color you don't like later. So we're just going to lay down this first layer down here at the bottom of the sand like so, and we'll let that dry before we start messing around with that. So we can turn this around and actually do our sky. So we want to squeeze quite a bit of water with a very thin layer here in the sky, kind of moving around. I would just do this 1/2 here and kind of get a few places. This is called wet on wet around there, and I'm going to water down my blue quite a bit, squeezing water into that. I've got water in my paper, water in my color. And now I'm kind of going around some of these little fronds. I'll move that out of the way. Make sure that you can see here. And I'm going to do an overall blue here, and you can stylistically do what you want. You just don't want hard white lines around your little sea fronds, whatever these are here. More. Now that I've got that down, I'm going to take a little bit of that and with a little more pigment and just kind of drop it in a few places. So it looks like it's going behind this basket. And now, after I've cleared my brush, I'm just going to kind of pull some of those into a shape that I like. I'm gonna use this one here, and what I want to do is kind of get the side of each of these fences, and if your paint's still wet from your sand, then you might want to wait a minute, otherwise it'll just, the black will bleed into your ocean and your sand, and that will not work really well. Those do not go well together. So I'm just kind of, it doesn't have to be super dark, it's just representing the shadow there. These are white pickets in my mind. I'm going to turn this around so you can see it. And I have a smaller edge here. And now I'm going to really water down my paint, test it out, and start to just do a couple lines to indicate the grain, because these are basically weathered white pickets. If you want to make your pickets more of a brown color, you can do that and just add that darker version there. Like I said, this will be underneath a mat, so it's not really important how you do this. Make sure I did this one on my vacation, and I didn't have a nice gray, didn't mix it well, and I didn't really care for how my grain turned out. So that's why it's good to try over here first. It was a little bit dark. So still a cute book. And in this one, because I'm doing the pink, I picked this like kind of lime greeny color. I used Parrot and a little bit of Tiki, and I'm going to leave the top stripe to go with the handle, and I'm going to start with the second stripe. I'm just barely putting my hand down so that I don't mess up my painting here. And it's still a little bit on the green side for me. Let me see if I add that. There we go, a yellow side. I'm sorry, I want it to look more green, more pear or lime green. Celadon color. And now I've got this. It's nice because the stripe ends up right at the bottom here. And now I'm going to take this same kind of gray that I used on my fence, and you could use something else depending if it's blue or whatnot, and I'm going to paint this handle. And kind of the edge here darker. And now I'm going to just really want it to be sort of white. So I went out of the lines there, and that may happen. I'm going to clear my brush, add a little water, and just dab that back to erase that. And now I'm going to spread this little shadow around a little bit so it's not as strong. And can even add like a little bit. It's probably a bright sunny day, so I probably don't need too much of a shadow, but I want to give it dimension here. And back here in the back of this basket, like that. And now I'm going to, while I'm in this kind of black gray, I'm going to paint this seat a gray. You could make it like a caramel color, especially if you're doing a blue bike. It doesn't have to be black. My bike here at home has more of like that caramely color leather. But the beach bikes, when I've gone to the beach, all have this black seat. Some are more comfortable than others. Let's see, kind of get that under there, and I want it to be more gray than black on this piece here, here, and here. And now, down here in the sand, I'm going to add a little bit. I had some greenery down here in this picture. Make kind of like a brown green color. Try it out. So maybe a little more green in there. It's up to you. It's your design. You might just want to make it a darker color of, I'll show you, like the sand. Just kind of pick a darker version here. So some places might be sand, some might have a little bit of that greenery coming through. And now I am going to use gold for these little fronds. I want to make sure that you can see that. And if you need to practice doing a very fine line, if you drop your hand, it's going to get fat. So you have to position your hand, especially going down towards yourself will be easier. You just want to make sure that you keep it nice and thin, light on your hand here. That's where you can ruin something really easy by doing a big, fat, chunky line. If you do, clear your brush and put some water on it and dab it back. You can even draw with a pencil another line next to it to kind of distract from your fat line. Maybe I'll make these green. Okay, and then my basket, I'm going to make it a little bit, I guess this is a beach bag with gels in it, and this is a basket. So I'm going to now go across this basket like this and kind of honor the weave here by varying my stroke, leaving some white of the paper. Instead of filling the whole thing in, I'm just making my stroke line smaller than the basket itself. And then I can go back in with a little bit of brown. I've got this corally color over here, and add an accent to the bottom here. Maybe across there and down the side a little bit. Now I can come in and dab into these. Move that out of the way. And if you want it a little bit more of a brown color, rather than an orange, you can add brown to it. Now I kind of went out of the lines here. Take a clear brush and took some of the paint away that was near that, so I'll add that back in. There we go. I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow across here and maybe around these shells I'm about to paint. Okay, so now we're going to work on our fronds up here. We just used some of that gold color. I don't like that. I want something more yellow. Let me try it out. That's kind of a lot. I'm going to put some water over here. We'll see. For these little guys, I'm just going to barely tap, and I'm not going to follow every single line because that'll look like a mess. So for my starfish, I want it to be more yellow. That's what I was looking for. And I've got a couple starfish down here. I like how that looks, so I'm gonna put those in. Whoops, you can't even see it. Moving around my paper. Okay, that's all the starfish I have. And, oh, nope, I knew there was another one. He's hiding up in here. Maybe I'll make him a little bit more yellow so he stands out. And then for my sand dollar, I'm going to use that just a very faint gray to go around the outside. I'm leaving the middle and then popping a little bit of dark gray in those dots there. Now onto our bike. As long as that's dry, let's get moving on that. I'm going to actually paint the frame first and the tire the very last thing. So I'm going to come across here, assuming that's dry. Love those colors together. And now, very carefully, come across the bike like that. Now I'm going to go back over my ocean and just close some gaps. And because I waited a little bit to let it dry, it'll maintain some of this texture lines here. Just like that.